Hello everyone and welcome to the biology lecture series, and today we'll be discussing the topic sexual reproduction in the flowering plants. So this is the continuation of the previous lecture. Okay, so in the previous lecture what we were studying about the post-fertilization events. So in that what we studied about the embryo, endosperm. Okay, so we studied about the structure of the embryo in the dicots as well as the monocots. Okay, and then we also studied about what? We studied about the embryogeny in the flowering plants. Okay, what were the stages which are involved in the embryo development in the dicots? All right, so this lecture is the continuation of the previous lecture, and what we'll study? We'll study about the seeds in this lecture. Okay, now seeds, let's start with the seed. Now in angiosperm, the seed is the final product of the sexual reproduction. So seeds are produced, okay, after the fertilization. So after the fertilization, what happens? The ovule, it develop into the seeds. Okay, so you can say also write fertilized ovule develop into the seeds. Clear? Now it is often described as fertilized ovule. So seed is often described as what? Fertilized ovule. Now seed are formed inside the fruits. So if we talk about the angiosperms, we know that ovules, they are enclosed by the ovary. Okay, that's why seed are formed inside the fruit. So ovules are enclosed in the ovary. Okay, that's why seed are produced in the fruit. So this is the characteristic feature of the angiosperms. Okay, this is the feature of what? Angiosperm, which are flowering plants. In gymnosperm, naked seeds are produced. Now next, a seed typically consists of the seed coat, cotyledon, and an embryo axis. Clear? So seed coat, cotyledons, as well as the embryo axis. Now this is the diagram showing you the structure of different kind of seeds. So here you can see the cotyledons of the embryo. These are the simple structure, generally thick and swollen due to the storage of the reserve food materials, such as in legumes. Okay, first we are talking about the cotyledons here. What are cotyledons? Cotyledons of the embryo, these are simple structures, okay, that store the reserve food material. So cotyledon, they store the reserve food materials, and that's why they become little bit swollen. So here you can see these are the cotyledons, two cotyledons, okay, and this is another type of seed, and you can see the cotyledon here, okay, and you can also see rest of the structures also. Endosperm, seed coat, and seed coat, you should remember, it is developed from the integuments. Ovules has integuments, outer integument and the inner integument. Okay, so integuments get transformed into seed coat. Here you can see hypocotyle. Okay, then here is the shoot apical meristem, which will give rise to the shoot system. Okay, and here is the root tip. Now in this, you can see this is another type of seed. Here you can see structures, endosperm. Here is the seed coat, cotyledon you can see. Then here is the shoot apical meristem, hypocotyle, root axis, and the root tip. Then in this, you can see here, this is the monocot seed. Monocot have only one cotyledon. Clear? It has a large endosperm. Endosperm is very large. Okay? So endosperm. So we are talking about the monocots. The endosperm is quite large. Okay? And it is surrounded by the alluron layer. which is made up of proteins. Clear? So this is the alluron layer. Clear? Alluron layer, it is a proteinaceous layer. Now, here you can see coleoptile. Coleoptile is the sheath that encloses the shoot tip. Plumule. Plumule give rise to what? Plumule give rise to the shoot. Okay? Plumule will give rise to the shoot. Coleoptile is again, it is a sheath that surrounds that encloses the shoot apex, you can say. Now radicle will give rise to the roots. And here is the coleorhiza. Coleorhiza is the sheath that encloses the root tip, you can say, or the root system. Clear? Here is the scutellum. Scutellum is the degenerated coleoptile. Clear? Here is the endosperm. So endosperm is separated from the embryo by this layer, alluron layer. Clear? Pericarp. Pericarp is known as the root ball. Now let's move on. The mature seed may be non-albuminous or ex-albuminous. This you have to remember. We're talking about the seeds. Now the seed have matured. Now the seeds can be of two types: non-albuminous, also known as ex-albuminous, or albuminous. Clear? Now, what are non-albuminous seeds? So they have no residual endosperm, as the endosperm is completely consumed during the embryo development. For example, pea and the groundnut. So what happens in the pea and the groundnut? The embryo, during the embryo development, the endosperm is completely consumed. You know, endosperm, the cells of the endosperm, they provide nutrition to the developing embryo. So we can write endosperm provide nutrition to the developing embryo. Here the embryo is completely used in case of non-albuminous seeds. Clear? Now, what are albuminous seeds? Here, the albuminous seed, they retain a part of the endosperm as it is not completely used up during the embryo development. For example, wheat, maize, barley, and the castor. Clear? So these are known as albuminous seeds, which retain a part of the endosperm. So endosperm is not completely utilized during the embryo development, and some part of the endosperm is retained in the mature seed. These type of seeds are known as the albuminous seeds. Examples I have already given you: wheat, maize, barley, and castor. Now, occasionally in some seeds such as the black pepper and the beet, remnants of nucellus are also persistent. So nucellus cells are usually what? They are diploid. So these cells are present in the female gametophyte. So female gametophyte, I mean to say the female gametophyte, it is embedded in the nucellus. Clear? Now this residual persistent nucellus is known as the perisperm. Clear? Now, what is perisperm? Perisperm is a nutritive tissue found in some seeds, particularly in certain types of the angiosperm. So we are talking about the flowering plants only. So perisperm is present in the angiosperm and it is a nutritive tissue. Now it is distinct from the endosperm and originate from the nucellus or the integument. Perisperm, we have seen in the previous slide that the nucellus give rise to the integument give rise to the perisperm, and integument can also give rise to the perisperm. So this structure is formed from these nucellus and integument, okay, and it is not formed from the fertilization process. What is fertilization? It is the union of the male and the female gametes. So this structure perisperm is not the result of the fertilization. Clear? Now, ovule also consists of the integuments. So integuments of the ovule harden as tough protective seed coats. So integuments, they get transformed into the tough protective seed coats. Clear? Now let's move on. Now the micropyle remains as a small pore in the seed coat. So seed coat also consists of a micropyle. This micropyle. What is micropyle? Micropyle is a small pore present on the, okay, which is present in the seed coat. Now what is the function of this micropyle? Now this facilitates entry of the oxygen and the water into the seed during germination. Okay, it facilitates the entry of the oxygen. So why is oxygen required? To carry out the respiration. Oxygen is required to carry out the respiration. In respiration, what happens? There is the oxidation of the respiratory substrate. Okay, such as carbohydrates. Okay, respiratory substrates can be, let's talk about the respiratory substrate little bit. Respiratory substrates. So seed require this oxygen for respiration because respiration will generate the energy, and it will also lead to the formation of some other molecules. Okay, the respiratory substrates can be carbohydrates. So seeds are rich in carbohydrates. Then proteins can also act as respiratory substrates, and fats, they can also act as the respiratory substrate. Now, what are respiratory substrate? The substances that are oxidized during the respiration, these are known as respiratory substrate. Okay, clear? Now, water is also required. So, water is also required for the seed germination because lot of the reaction, they take place in the presence of the water. Clear? Now, as the seed matures, its water content is reduced and the seed becomes relatively dry. Only 10 to 15% moisture by mass. Clear? So, as the seed matures, it is utilizing the water. Okay? Water is used where? Water is used in the biochemical reactions. To carry out all the biochemical reactions, they require the water. Clear? So, as the seed mature, the water content is reduced and the seeds, okay, they become relatively dry and only 10 to 15%, okay, moisture by mass. Now, the general metabolic activity of the embryo slows down because of this. Okay, so metabolic activity means the metabolism. Okay, so metabolic activity is due to the biochemical reactions that are going on. And what are biochemical reactions? Which are taking place in the presence of the enzymes. Clear? The general metabolic activity of the embryo will slow down. Next, the embryo may enter a state of inactivity called the dormancy. Okay? Or if the favorable conditions are available, means adequate moisture, oxygen and suitable temperature is available, they can germinate. Okay, then embryo can germinate. Clear? Now, the seed can undergo, it is saying dormancy. So, dormancy occurs when there are unfavorable conditions. Okay, so seed can be, okay, it can undergo dormancy. Okay, what is dormancy? It is the state of inactivity. And you can say the seed is not metabolically active. Okay, dormancy arises what? Because of the unfavorable conditions. Because of the unfavorable conditions, the dormancy can arise, or there can be some abiotic stress, okay, such as the drought or the water scarcity. Okay, what are these unfavorable conditions? They can be water stress, and or you can say very high temperature or some other, okay, some chemical is produced that is causing the dormancy. Clear? Now when the favorable conditions they return, okay, such as adequate moisture is required, adequate oxygen is required, is present, and the temperature is also suitable, then the seed will germinate. So you must know that the seed, for the germination of the seed, there is optimum temperature. Okay, different seeds, all right, they germinate at the optimum temperature. Clear? Some of the seeds, okay, they grow in the cold temperature, all right, the sub like winter growing varieties, okay, so these seeds require low temperature, okay, and some are summer growing varieties, so they can grow in the higher temperature. Clear? So if the favorable conditions are available, moisture is also very important for the seed germination. Okay, water is also very required. Okay, whenever you soak the seed in the water, you must have seen the seed coat. Okay, the seed coat becomes little bit loose, and then the seed can germinate. Clear? So one of the reasons for dormancy is the very hardened seed coat also. Okay, clear? So that's why we soak the seeds in the water also. Now next, as ovules mature into the seeds, okay, we know that the fertilized ovules are known as the seed. So after the fertilization, the ovules, they are transformed into the seeds. The ovary develops into the fruit. Ovules develop into seed, and the ovary will develop into the fruit. So this is happening where? This is happening after the fertilization. Okay, this is all these events are happening after fertilization, means post fertilization. Clear? Now, the transformation of the ovule into the seed and the ovary into the fruit, it proceeds simultaneously. So both these processes, these are happening simultaneously. And the seeds, I've already told you, are enclosed within the ovary. Clear? Or you can also say seeds are enclosed within the ovary wall, also known as the fruit wall. Fruit wall, what is another name? Pericarp. Clear? Pericarp you can see here. The wall of the ovary develops into the wall of the fruit, known as the pericarp. So what is happening here? Post fertilization we are talking about. Okay, what were the post fertilization event? First was the endosperm formation. So endosperm usually, or the endosperm formation usually precedes the embryo development. Why? Because endosperm provides nutrition to the developing embryo. Now endosperm. Second is the first is the endosperm development. Next is the embryo development. Third, we are talking about the transformation of ovules into the seed. And fourth is the transformation of the ovary into the fruits. Okay, clear? Now the ovary wall, the wall of the ovary, this get transformed into the fruit wall. Okay. Now this fruit wall, this is known as the pericarp. Okay. Pericarp is made up of 3 layers: exocarp, mesocarp, and the endocarp. Clear? So it consists of 3 layers. Okay. Outer outermost layer is known as the exocarp. The fleshy middle layer is known as the mesocarp, and the inner layer around the seed, this is known as the endocarp. Clear? Now, what is the role of the pericarp? Pericarp, it protects the seeds and aids in the seed dispersal. Clear? So it is there for the protection of the seed, as well as it also helps in the seed dispersal. Clear? So you have to remember what are the 3 layers of the pericarp: exocarp, mesocarp, and endocarp. Now let's talk about fruits. The fruits may be fleshy, such as in guava, orange, mango, etc., and may be dry, such as in groundnut and the mustard. Clear? The fruits we have discussed, it is of 2 types, fleshy and the dry one. Now, many fruits have evolved mechanism for dispersal of the seeds. Okay. Now, if you recall the classification of the fruit and the dispersal mechanism, then you that you have studied in the earlier classes. So, classification of fruits you must have studied, and the dispersal mechanism you must have studied in the earlier classes. Classification of fruits also you must have studied. There are different kinds of fruits. Some are fruits are berries. Okay. Now, is there any relationship between the number of ovules in the ovary and the number of seed present in the fruit? So, ovules, they get transformed into the seeds. Now, in most plants, by the time the fruit develops from the ovary, other floral parts degenerate and they fall off. Clear? So, what is happening in most of the plants? By the time the fruit develops, okay, by the time the fruit develops from the ovary gets transformed into the fruits. The other floral parts, what are the other floral parts? The leaves, sepals, okay. These are the floral parts, also known as the floral organs. Leaves, petals and the sepals. Petals, sepals, okay, androecium, gynoecium, okay. So these are the floral parts. They degenerate and they fall off. However, in few species such as apple, strawberry, and cashew, the thalamus also contribute to the fruit formation. Clear? So here the fruit is formed from the thalamus. Okay, what is thalamus? Thalamus is the swollen basal part. Let's see what the thalamus is. The thalamus of the flower is the enlarged tip of the flower stalk, which is known as what? Pedicel. Flower stalk is known as the pedicel. Okay, so the thalamus of the flower is enlarged tip of the flower stalk. Okay, it is swollen also. Now, at the thalamus, all the floral parts are attached. What are the floral parts? Sepals, petals, stamens, as well as the carpels, or you can say pistils. Clear? And we have seen all these floral parts, they degenerate as the fruit is developed. Clear? But sometimes the fruit also develops from the thalamus. Okay, usually the fruit develops from the ovary, but sometimes the fruit can also develop from the thalamus, which is the enlarged tip of the flower stalk. And what is the name of the flower stalk? It is the pedicel. So, thalamus looks like this. Okay, it is swollen. Okay, this is the flower tip known as the pedicel. So, this region is known as the thalamus, the swollen region. This is known as the thalamus. Okay, now the thalamus, on the thalamus, what is present? the floral parts are attached to the thalamus. Okay. So you can see here the petals. Okay. Outermost is the sepals. Then you have the petals. Okay. Then in the center you have this pistil. Okay. Then here are the stamens. Stamens are also attached. Okay. Stamens are attached here to the thalamus. So all the floral organs, they are attached to the thalamus. Now such fruits are known as the false fruits, which do not develop from the ovary. Such fruits are known as the false fruit. So here you can see in this image, false fruit of the apple as well as the strawberry. So both of these are false fruit. Here you can see this is the thalamus region. The fruit is developing from the thalamus. This is also the thalamus region here. Okay, this is the seed. Okay, this is the endocarp and this is the mesocarp. Clear? So these are the false fruit. Now most fruit, however, develop only from the ovary and are known as the true fruits. The fruits can be false fruits or true fruits. True fruits develop from the ovary only. Although in most of the species, fruits are the result of the fertilization. Okay, so fruits, you know, they are formed after the fertilization. So fertilization, ovary matures into the fruit. But in some species, what happens? The fruits, they may develop without the fertilization, and this phenomena is known as the parthenocarpy, and this leads to the development of parthenocarpic fruit. Clear? So what is parthenocarpy? So this is very important. Parthenocarpy is the development of the seedless roots without fertilization. Clear? So here the fruits are developed, they are seedless. Okay, because the ovule, okay, or the seeds produced, they are not viable. That's why the fruits are seedless. Clear? Here, there is no fertilization happening and the fruits are developing without fertilization. Now, banana is one such example, okay, which shows the development of the parthenocarpic fruit. Parthenocarpic fruits, okay, some other parthenocarpic fruits are watermelon. Watermelon. Okay. Now, parthenocarpy can be induced through the application of growth hormones, and such fruits are seedless. So, parthenocarpic fruits are seedless. Okay. So, you must have studied, when you've studied about the plant hormones, there are some hormones such as auxins. These auxins, they promote parthenocarpy. And they lead to the development of the parthenocarpic fruit. Now, seeds offer several advantages to the angiosperm. Let's talk about the advantages of the seeds. First, since the reproductive process such as the pollination and the fertilization are independent of water, seed formation is more dependable. Okay, so what happens in the angiosperms? The pollination as well as the fertilization. Okay, these are independent of the water. They don't require water for transferring the pollen grains, okay, from the anther to the stigma. Okay, so if the water is required for pollination, then that type of pollination is known as the hydrophily. Here water is required. Then fertilization. So sometimes, like such as in bryophytes and the pteridophytes, okay, their life cycle is completed, okay, in the water only. So they require water for completing their life cycle, or they require water for the sexual reproduction. So, but here in angiosperms, Okay, the reproductive process such as pollination and the fertilization, they are independent of the water, seed formation, and okay, clear? Now, why is this so? So, if the pollination is not happening by water, then what are the other means of the pollination? Pollination can be done by first, it can be done by the abiotic factors and the biotic factors. So, it can be done by wind, okay, and some insects also. The pollination by wind, this is known as, these are the abiotic pollination. This one is the biotic. Clear? Now, the angiosperm, they don't go for, they don't require water for pollination as well as the fertilization. So, these are the other means. Okay. Now, these means they help in the, you can say, form, these processes are quite dependable. Okay. These processes are quite dependable as compared to the water. Okay. So, what can happen due to the water current? These water currents, okay, these tides, these can disrupt, okay, these can disrupt the dispersal of the seeds. Okay, so that's why here angiosperm don't use water for the pollination as well as the fertilization, but they use other means, okay, such as wind and the pollination by insects. Clear? So that's why the seed formation is quite dependable in the angiosperms. Clear? If the water is used, then the water currents and tides, these can affect the dispersal of the seeds. Now next, they have better adaptive strategies for dispersal also to the new habitat and help the species to colonize in the other area. So these seeds are quite well adapted. They can adapt to the new habitats. Okay, and this will help the species to colonize in other areas. Clear? Next is, as they have sufficient food reserves, young seedlings are nourished until they are capable of photosynthesizing on their own. So these seeds have sufficient food material, they have sufficient food reserves. Okay? And the young seedling, all right, are nourished until they are capable of the photosynthesis. So during photosynthesis, what happens? The plant can make its own food. Okay? But initially the plant is not able to do much photosynthesis. Okay, so the nutrition can be obtained from the seeds. Okay, so as the seed have sufficient food reserves, the young seedlings are nourished until they are capable of photosynthesizing. So you must have seen the seeds are grown underground, and underground there is no light available, and light is very much required for the process of the photosynthesis. Okay, and because of the photosynthesis, the organic substances such as the carbohydrate, these are generated. This is clear. Now, next point is the hard seed coat provides the protection to the young embryo. The seed coat, which is developed from the integument, this provides protection to the young embryo. Now, being products of the sexual reproduction, they generate a new combination, okay, leading to the variation. So, during sexual reproduction, what happens? Meiosis. Sexual reproduction, this involves meiosis. During meiosis, what happens? Crossing over and recombination. Clear? This crossing over and recombination, this generates variation. Okay, so in sexual reproduction, meiosis takes place, and due to meiosis, what is produced? Gametes are produced. Gametes are produced due to meiosis. So they have n number of the chromosome. Okay, gametes will have n number of the chromosome. They are haploid. Clear? Now you understand that the product of sexual reproduction, they generate new genetic combination leading to variation. This new genetic combinations are because of the meiosis that is taking place. Okay, clear? Now, seed is the basis of our agriculture. Seeds are primarily means of the propagating crops in the agriculture, and the farmers rely on the seed to grow crops for the food, fiber, fuel, as well as the other agriculture products. Clear? Why the seed is the basis of the agriculture? Because they are the means of propagating crops in the agriculture. Okay, and the seeds also ensure the agriculture continuity of the agriculture production from one growing season to another growing season. Next is dehydration and dormancy of the mature seeds. Okay, are crucial for the storage of the seed, which can be used as the food throughout the year and also to raise the crop in the next session. Clear? So we were talking about the dormancy of the seeds. So there are various reasons because of which the seed may become dormant. Okay, either unfavorable conditions are present or there is some chemical is present. There is one hormone also, abscisic acid, that causes the dormancy. Okay, and there is one hormone, gibberellins, that helps to break down the dormancy and it induces the seed germination also. Okay, so this dormancy is very important. Okay, it is important for the storage of the seeds for the very long time. So dormancy, we have already discussed, it is the state of inactivity. Okay, it is a state of inactivity. So the metabolism, or you can say the metabolic rate, is very less here in dormant seeds. Okay, and this is crucial for the storage of the seeds and dehydration also. So without water, the seed will not germinate. So both these conditions are very much important. Okay, for the storage of the seeds for a longer time, and these seeds can be used, okay, from one generation to the next generation. Clear? Now let's move on. Now, can you imagine agriculture in the absence of the seeds? No, it is not possible. Okay, or in the presence of seed which germinates straight away soon after the formation and cannot be stored. So storage is also very important. Okay, now how long do the seeds remain alive after they are dispersed? Now this period varies greatly. Okay, now in few species the seed lose viability within a few months. So it depends on the species. Okay, so in some species the seed lose their viability within the few months, means they will not germinate, they will become non-viable. Next is seed of a large number of seed species live for several years. Okay, next is some seed can remain alive for hundred of years, and there are several records of which of very old yet viable seeds also. Clear? So seeds can remain alive in the dormant state for hundred of years. Clear? And there are several records where some 1,000-year-old seeds, some 2,000-year-old seeds, they were found and still they were viable, means they germinated. Viable seed means they will germinate. So the oldest is that of the lupine. Lupine, what is the scientific name? Lupinus arcticus. This is excavated from the Arctic tundra. Now the seed germinated and flowered after an estimated record of 10,000 years of dormancy. So you can see dormancy was for 10,000 years, and after that also the seed germinated. So during the dormancy, what happens? It is the state of inactivity. There is no metabolism is going on. Clear? So because of this, the seed can be stored for many years, for a very long time. And second is dehydration is also required. But as the favorable conditions returned, okay, whenever you give it the moisture or the optimum temperature, then they will germinate. So 10,000-year-old seeds also germinated when they were given the favorable conditions. Now the recent record of 2,000-year-old viable seed is of the date palm Phoenix dactyla. Okay, scientific name is Phoenix dactylifera, discovered during the archaeological excavation at the King's Shepherd Palace near the Dead Sea. Clear? Now, after completing a brief account of sexual reproduction of the flowering plant, it would be worth attempting to comprehend the enormous reproductive capacity of some flowering plant by asking the following question. How many eggs are present in the embryo sac? So you have to answer how many eggs are present in the embryo sac. So if you know about the structure of the embryo sac, at the micropylar end, egg apparatus is present. Okay, and this egg apparatus contains of one egg. So usually one egg is present in the embryo sac, which is haploid. So all the cells of the embryo sacs are usually haploid. The next question is how many micro embryo sacs are present in the ovule? Okay, so usually one embryo sac is present in the ovule, but due to some you can say genetic anomaly or due to the abnormal growth, more than one embryo sac can be present. Okay, so you can write usually one, but under abnormal condition or due to the abnormal growth or due to the, you can say, genetic okay, usually it is one, okay, but due to the abnormal growth, more than one embryo sac can be present. Clear? Now how many ovules? So this also depends. Okay, either a single ovule can be present or multiple ovules can be present. Now how many ovaries are present in the typical flower? Okay, usually one ovary is present in the typical flower. Clear? So one egg is present. So we can write about the egg. Usually one egg is present. If we talk about the embryo sac, usually one embryo sac is present, but more than one can be present due to the abnormal growth. Then ovules, if we talk about the ovules can be one or it can be many. Clear? Then ovary can be one. Usually it is one. Clear? Now orchid fruits, if you talk about the orchid fruits, they are one such category and each fruit contains thousands of the tiny seeds. So each fruit consists of so many seeds, tiny seeds. Similar is the case in the fruit of some parasitic species such as Orobanche as well as the striga. Here the fruits contain many seeds, means many ovules. Clear? And have you seen the seeds of the ficus? Okay, and from such a tiny seed of the ficus, a very large tree develops. See, it is so interesting fact. Alright, so this was the end of this lecture. I hope you enjoyed this lecture. Okay, we will meet you in the next lecture. Thank you very much for listening.